Now, today we have a grand test for discussion. Now, these discussions are really very important because it will make you recall all the topics associated with that question. Okay, so these sessions are really important and don't miss all these sessions. Okay, now coming to our first question, a rare developmental anomaly shown in the radiograph is, okay, so now when you look at any image, okay, first try to look at the option. When you don't have any particular, when they have not mentioned anything in the question, then first look at the options and then relate it to the image. Okay, that in this way it will be easier for you to mark the MCQ. Now, dye laceration. Can you see any dye laceration? No. Ghost teeth. Okay, this is not a ghost teeth because what we see in ghost teeth, just the outline of the tooth. That is just the enamel. Now here the dentine and all the structures, they are not seen. Okay, just the outline structure of the tooth is seen. Now coming to the dens invaginatus and dens evaginatus. So as we have already discussed in our live session, that what is dens invaginatus? It is seen as, now I'll show you the clinical image. It is seen as deep pit. And which is the most common tooth involved with the dens invaginatus? Very important MCQ. It is maxillary lateral incisor. So as we can see in this image, it is maxillary lateral incisor. And which radiographic feature they are telling about? This is a umbrella shaped radiographic feature, which is seen classically in dens invaginatus. Now, what is difference between invaginatus and evaginatus? So, as the name suggests, invaginatus, that means something which is going inside. So, as in this image, there is a something which is going inside. Evaginatus, that means something which is coming out, something which is protruding out. Okay, so invaginatus, it is the structure is going inside. Now how does it occur? Okay, now when we see the developmental stages of the tooth, it results from the downward proliferation of the inner enamel epithelium into the dental papilla. Okay, while dens evaginatus, it is like a outward extension of the enamel organ. Okay, so this is downward proliferation of the portion of inner enamel epithelium into the dental papilla. Okay, so here the answer is invaginatus. Okay, see, this is a clinical image. Now whenever there is a dens invaginatus, what these deep pit, okay, it has high tendency that it will result in caries. It result in the caries, and ultimately slowly progressive caries, it result in the pulpal necrosis, and after a long time chronic lesion, the patient complains of the pain. Okay, so this is dens invaginatus. In fact, both dens invaginatus and dens evaginatus, they are very much caries prone. Okay. Now, what is this? Okay. So, these is most commonly seen on the buccal mucosa first of all. Okay. Now, these are yellowish to white spots. Okay. So, these are not the Koplik spot, not the herpangina, not the chicken pox. Okay. They would have mentioned something if it would have been chicken pox, herpangina or the Koplik spot. So, this is a normal Fordyce granule. Okay. Now, this is the histopathological image. Now, what this histopathological image? So, they can give you this also as a question. Okay, so what is this histopathological image? These are the collection of the sebaceous gland. Okay, these are ectopic sebaceous glands. And which is the most common location in the oral cavity? It is buccal mucosa. Now, a very important question. Now, this Fordyce granule, it is normally seen in the normal individual in 80% of the time. 80% of the time, and it is seen as yellowish, multiple yellow or yellow white papules. Remember, these are yellow white papules. Seen most commonly on the buccal mucosa or the vermilion of upper lip. Vermilion of upper lip. Now, these lesions, these are asymptomatic. asymptomatic. So whenever you come across these kind of lesion, okay, remember these are ectopic sebaceous gland and they pour their secretion through these channels. Okay. So if you guys have any doubt, you can just mention and I'll clear your doubt. Okay. So this was the first two question, important question. Okay. Now spot the only inflammatory odontogenic cyst, only inflammatory odontogenic cyst amongst the below given cysts. Now, I have always told you that classification of cyst and tumor, it is very important. Okay, if you see my recall session, from past 3 years, they are giving the question from the cyst and tumor, and in fact this year NEET, okay, they had two question from cyst and two question from tumor. Okay, and it was a very direct question. Okay, just remember the basics what has been taught in your class and that will suffice your preparation. Okay, so inflammatory odontogenic cyst, it is very easy. Okay, so calcifying odontogenic cyst, so for this just remember WHO 2017 classification. Odontogenic keratocyst, lateral periodontal cyst. Now you tell me what should be the answer of this question. Okay. So before coming to the answer of this question, let's first discuss the present 2017 classification that is based on etiology. So it has been divided into inflammatory cyst and developmental cyst. So just remember two cysts that comes under the inflammatory while all other cysts will go into the developmental cyst. Okay, so remember inflammatory cyst, so radicular cyst, it is a type of inflammatory cyst, and inflammatory collateral cyst. Okay, so radicular cyst ka soft tissue counterpart, it is a residual cyst, while there are two types of inflammatory collateral cyst. Okay, that is paradental cyst and buccal bifurcation cyst. Okay, so while all other cysts will come into the developmental. So we have dentigerous OKC, orthokeratinized odontogenic cyst. They have been asking orthokeratinized odontogenic cyst also very frequently in past INI paper. In past 3 INI paper you will see questions from orthokeratinized odontogenic cyst. Glandular odontogenic cyst, so this year they had asked a question on the glandular odontogenic cyst. Mark my words, all your questions from the cyst will be from this that has been provided to your in your live class or in your notes. Okay, eruption cyst, now again it is characterized into intraosseous and extraosseous. Intraosseous matlab it is present within the bone, extraosseous matlab away from the bone, that is present in the soft tissue. Okay, so till calcifying odontogenic cyst, these are intraosseous. Okay, so the answer is, tell me the answer, it is buccal bifurcation cyst. Okay, now these buccal bifurcation cysts, it is most commonly seen in the mandibular first permanent molar. Mandibular first permanent molar. Now the main purpose of this session is just to have a recall. Okay, you should be in a constant touch with the subject. Okay, now coming to our fourth question. Now ameloblastoma, again it is a very important, and I have been getting a lot of questions from ameloblastoma. Okay, now which amongst the following is not a histologic subtype of unicystic? Okay, so the questions will be like this. Okay, but we have done unicystic ameloblastoma, but in your past year NEET and INI paper, they have been continuously asking about the conventional ameloblastoma, which is a multicystic type of ameloblastoma. So we know that there are 6 histopathological variants. Now here the question is slightly twisted, histologic type of unicystic ameloblastoma. सबसे पहले मुझे बता दो, what are the types of ameloblastoma as per the WHO classification? ameloblastoma के types बता दो. So we have 4 types. So the conventional ameloblastoma, it is considered as multicystic ameloblastoma. Okay, so do not get confused in the conventional and multicystic. Multicystic ameloblastoma is only considered as conventional. Okay, so conventional or the multicystic, Okay, unicystic ameloblastoma. Unicystic ameloblastoma is another category. Then we have peripheral ameloblastoma, and metastasizing ameloblastoma. Metastasizing ameloblastoma. So these are the four histological classifications of ameloblastoma based by WHO. Now coming to the unicystic ameloblastoma. So unicystic ameloblastoma, that means it has a one cystic cavity. Now there are three types of unicystic ameloblastoma. Three types of unicystic ameloblastoma. I'll tell the three types, then you tell me the answer. Okay. First is the luminal. Unicystic ameloblastoma matlab it is just like a single cavity, okay, not multicystic. It will not have a soap bubble or the honeycomb appearance. Okay. Luminal, intraluminal, and mural. Okay, mural. Okay, so luminal. Okay, now in luminal, what happens? Now remember, first of all, in ameloblastoma, the basic structure of ameloblastoma remains the same. That in center, there will be stellate reticulum-like cells, while in peripheral, there will be tall columnar-like cells. So that we'll be discussing in the our next question. Okay, now luminal. What happens? Whenever the changes will occur only in the lining epithelium. Okay, that is called as luminal. Okay, so if this is the lumen of the ameloblastoma, okay, now the changes, whatever the changes will occur only in the lumen, it will not go anywhere, only in the lining epithelium. That is called as luminal variant. Now intraluminal, what happens? There is a proliferation of the lining epithelium in the lumen. It will go, there will be the epithelium, it will start proliferating, it will start going inside the luminal, that is intraluminal. Whenever the changes occurring only in the lining epithelium, intraluminal when it is going inside the lumen, while mural, the proliferation of the lining epithelium, it will go in the connective tissue. So that is a mural ameloblastoma. Now this mural ameloblastoma, it has been considered it as very aggressive. It is considered as very aggressive. It has a poor prognosis. Now tell me the answer. So first variant, we have a luminal where there will be changes only in the lining epithelium. Intraluminal, it will go inside the lumen, and once the proliferation, it will start going into the connective tissue, it will be mural. Okay, so intramural is not there. Okay, intramural. So which amongst the following is not a histological subtype? It is intramural. Okay. Now, what happens whenever there is a mural ameloblastoma? Since it is going in the connective tissue, it is invading, it is a very poor prognosis, and the simple enucleation is not helpful. What we have to do? We have to do resection, complete resection. Okay. Now, a very important question. Okay, a radio opaque mass that is fused to one or more tooth roots and surrounded by a radiolucent rim is a highly suggestive of. Now, this is also a oral medicine and radiology. Okay, it is a very direct question. Okay, radio opaque mass. So, whenever there is a radio opaque mass surrounded by a thin radiolucent rim, which is connected to many teeth, what will be the answer? It is cementoblastoma. Now, what is a cementoblastoma? It is a benign odontogenic tumor. Which category? Again, the classification is very important because there was a direct question in the INI and the similar kind of question was repeated in the next year NEET. Okay, so you have to remember the classification of the benign odontogenic tumor. So it also belongs to benign odontogenic tumor. Okay, so cementoblastoma. Now this cementoblastoma, it is considered as a true neoplasm of cementum. True neoplasm of cementum. So this is called as true cementoma. True cementoma. Now, since remember, there's a difference between hypercementosis and cementoblastoma. Cementoblastoma क्या है? It is a jaw tumor. So what will happen? There will be jaw swelling will be there. Jaw swelling. In hypercementosis, there is no jaw swelling. And what happens in whenever there is a cementoblastoma? Excessive production of cementum. Excessive production of cementum. What it will do? There will be root resorption. The outline of the tooth will not be seen. Excessive root resorption will be seen. Okay. Now in hypercementosis, the outline, this is when we see radiographically hypercementosis, there is an excessive overgrowth of cementum, but that will be limited, that will be contained within the boundary. Hypercementosis contained within the boundaries of periodontal ligament. Okay, there will be bulging will be seen because of excessive cementum formation. Bulging will be seen at the apical part of the tooth. That will not hinder the periodontal ligament. But here in cementoblastoma, there will be root resorption. Okay, root resorption of the involved tooth root. Okay. And which is the most common tooth involved with the cementoblastoma? It is mandibular first permanent molar. Mandibular first permanent molar. Okay. Now this question, this type of question, similar kind of question was asked in your recent NEET paper. Okay, and many students, they were confused. Then I had a recall session, and then still students are confused. Okay, so I do not want any type of question after today's session that what are the histopathological variant, which is the most aggressive, which is the most common type, or what is the difference between the plexiform ameloblastoma and desmoplastic ameloblastoma. Okay, so let's have a look at the ameloblastoma in detail. Okay, so first have a look on this question. Okay, so the answer is cementoblastoma for this. Okay, now dense fibrous connective tissue which appears more prominent than the neoplastic ameloblastic epithelium is seen in which type of ameloblastoma. Okay, so first of all, there are 6 histopathological variant of ameloblastoma. Dense fibrous connective tissue. अच्छा, इसमें से बता दो. Tell me if you have attended my live session or my recorded session, then it will be very easier for you to tell me. Okay, now where do you see dense fibrosis of the connective tissue? Dense fibrosis of the connective tissue. Okay, so in desmoplastic, dense, say naam hi hai desmoplastic, it is very dense, it is very easy to remember also. Dense fibrous connective tissue, desmoplastic ameloblastoma, it is very dense. So what happens here? Excessive fibrosis occurring in the connective tissue, and here the epithelium, obviously it is a benign odontogenic tumor. Okay, so the epithelium is very compressed, leading to the kite or bird shaped appearance, desmoplasia. Now this is the only type of ameloblastoma which occurs in the anterior region also. Okay, anterior and posterior. Anterior, that is most commonly towards the canine and premolar. Okay, this is the only type of ameloblastoma. Rest all occurs in the posterior region. Okay, so which is the most common type of ameloblastoma? Which is the most common type of ameloblastoma? It is follicular. So let's just have a look on the 6 histopathological variant of ameloblastoma. So follicular ameloblastoma, it is the most common type of ameloblastoma. Okay, it is not the aggressive, it has not the high recurrence rate. Okay, now follicular basic structure. First understand the basic structure of the ameloblastoma. So it has a tall columnar cells exhibiting Vickers-Gorlin criteria. Okay, and in center they have stellate reticulum like cells. Okay, now what happens? How are the other ameloblastoma are formed? If there is metaplasia, occurs in this stellate reticulum like cells, it will result in three histopathological variant of ameloblastoma. Okay, so metaplasia occurs in this stellate reticulum like cells. Now, first is acanthomatous ameloblastoma. So, what will happen if the metaplasia occurs in stellate reticulum like cells? There will be formation of squamous cells. So, if there is a squamous metaplasia, it will result in acanthomatous ameloblastoma. Granular. Now, in the stellate reticulum like cells, granules will be seen. These granules are formed from lysosomal aggregates. Okay, now these granules, these are very aggressive. Lysosomal aggregates, these are very aggressive. So this is considered as the aggressive form of ameloblastoma. Now there is a slight confusion between the granular and desmoplastic ameloblastoma. Okay, so desmoplastic is also considered as very aggressive form of ameloblastoma, but high recurrence rate is seen in granular ameloblastoma. Then we have basal cell ameloblastoma. Now in here what happens, the center cell, that is stellate reticulum like cells, they will undergo either cuboidal cells or the basaloid morphology. These are very primitive cells. Now plexiform, अगर क्वेश्चन में ये है, if odontogenic epithelium, they are arranged in islands or the cords interconnecting, it is plexiform ameloblastoma. अगर बोल रहे हैं जहां पे आइलैंड्स और कॉर्ड्स का नाम आ गया, नाम आंख बंद करके, इट इज प्लेक्सीफॉर्म. If they have just mentioned dense fibrous connective tissue, that means they're talking about desmoplastic ameloblastoma. Okay, so these are the 6 histopathological variants of ameloblastoma. Conventional, okay, unicystic ameloblastoma we have already discussed. Okay, it is very important because from past 3 years continuously the same questions they are repeating in a different forms. Okay, now plunging or the cervical ranula occurs when the spilled mucin dissects between the fibers. Very easy. Okay, we have seen this in our live session. What is ranula? First of all, okay, ranula, rana means frog, and frog, that is ranula means frog's belly. Okay, so this is a mucocele. It is a type of mucocele which is present in the floor of the mouth. Now it can be both extravasation or the retention, but if nothing is mentioned, then we have to always consider it as extravasation type. Now what is plunging ranula? Now the similar kind of swelling which is present in the floor of the mouth, it dissects via the mylohyoid muscle and produce a similar kind of swelling in the neck. Okay, so this is called as plunging or the cervical. That means present in the cervical area, cervical ranula. Now this swelling, whenever we swallow, it moves while swallowing. Okay, now most commonly associated with sublingual salivary gland. Okay, so the answer here is mylohyoid muscles. So in your exam, question will be like this only. Okay, now microscopic, a very important question. Okay, microscopic appearance of necrotizing cyalometaplasia can be confused with which of these other lesion? Okay, answer. So necrotizing cyalometaplasia. So it has been said that even when we see microscopically squamous cell carcinoma, it is a very infiltrative type of lesion. Okay, very infiltrative type of lesion. Similarly, necrotizing cyalometaplasia, it is seen as a crater-filled lesion seen on the palate. Okay, and the patient complains that half of my palate has fallen off. Okay, so when we see microscopically, these lesions are also very infiltrative. But necrotizing cyalometaplasia, it is a self-limiting disease. That means it resolves on its own. Okay, but if a patient has come to you, you cannot wait, because if it is a squamous cell carcinoma, it will progress. Then which is the only thing where we can rely? It is the biopsy. Biopsy will tell you, because all the features of the carcinoma will be seen in the squamous cell carcinoma, not in the necrotizing cyalometaplasia. Now there is a one table where they have given in the Schaefer, which I have also mentioned, 12 histopathological, 12 features of dysplasia, epithelial dysplasia, it is given in Schaeffer and everyone has to know this, okay, because direct question can be asked from this topic, okay. Necrotizing cyalometaplasia. Now this necrotizing cyalometaplasia, it has been also called as pseudocarcinomatous hyperplasia. Now what are the other condition, can anyone tell me, apart from necrotizing cyalometaplasia? The lesions which are also called as pseudocarcinomatous hyperplasia. Can anyone answer this? Here the answer is squamous cell carcinoma. So the other lesions, it is keratoacanthoma, and granular cell tumor. Along with necrotizing cyalometaplasia. Now, McQueen-Albright syndrome is also better known as, very direct question, okay. Answer. So first of all, McQueen-Albright syndrome, पहले तो do not get confused into Paget's and hyperparathyroidism. It is a fibrous dysplasia. Now, which type? Monostotic or the polyostotic fibrous dysplasia? It is polyostotic fibrous dysplasia. Now, tell me, fibrous dysplasia, it occurs as a result of which gene mutation? It is GNAS1 gene mutation present on chromosome 20. Okay. Now, what this GNAS1 do? It encodes for a protein that is called as G protein, which help in production of CMP. Now, what happens? There is an overproduction of this CMP, and this has its effect on endocrine, melanocyte and osteoblast. Okay. Now, depending on what stage, that is at what time of mutation is occurring, we will divide it into polyostotic and monostotic fibrous dysplasia. Okay. So, if there is a early embryonic life, mutation in the early embryonic life, GNAS1 gene में mutation, if it is occurring in the early embryonic life, it will have its effect on all, that is endocrine, melanocyte and osteoblast. If it has effect on the late embryonic life, then it will have effects on the skeletal progenitor cells. Osteoblast will be affected, and that will called as polyostotic. Or if it is a postnatal, then this is monostotic. Okay. Now, monostotic, now which is the most common type of fibrous dysplasia? Remember, it is not polyostotic. Most common type, it is monostotic. And this is the less severe form. Less severe. क्यों less severe है? Because it is occurring postnatal. Okay. Only one bone involvement is there. Okay. Now, polyostotic fibrous dysplasia, what you will be seeing? It will be seen as bowing of the long bones, which is the pathogenomic for the polyostotic fibrous dysplasia. Shepherd-Crook deformity, hockey stick deformity, along with Cafe-Au-Lord spots will be seen. Now, McQueen-Albright syndrome, it consists of a triad. Remember this triad. It has a bone defect, that is osteoblast defect, bone defect, along with endocrine abnormalities, and it will have a Cafe-Au-Lord spots. Now, how these Cafe-Au-Lord spots are different in the neurofibromatosis, that you have to tell me. Okay. Now, there is something called as Jaffe's type. Okay. So, polyostotic fibrous dysplasia, it has a it consists of McQueen-Albright syndrome, Jaffe's type. Tell me, what is Jaffe's type? It consists of polyostotic fibrous dysplasia and Cafe-Au-Lord spot. It does not has any endocrine manifestation. Polyostotic and Cafe-Au-Lord spots. Okay. It does not manifest any endocrine problem. Now, civet or colloid bodies in lichen planus, these are derived from, very important question. Everybody tell me. Chalo. I'll show you this image and tell me. Now, first, तो इफ यू डोंट नो द आंसर ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन, तो थोड़ा सा दिमाग लगाने का है, ठीक है। फर्स्ट, सिवेट बॉडीज फॉर्म क्यों होता है, सिवेट और कोलॉइड बॉडीज, व्हाई दे आर फॉर्मिंग इन लाइकेन प्लैनेट्स, ओके। सो व्हाट इज दिस ब्लू, ठीक है, this is lymphocyte, okay। So what happens, it is a CD4 positive T lymphocytes. So these T lymphocytes, what happens, they attack the basal layer, and when these are attacked, basal layers are attacked, the degenerating basal keratinocytes are called as degenerating basal keratinocytes are called as colloid bodies or the civet bodies. I hope the doubt is clear. Okay, these are called as civet bodies or the colloid bodies. See, now what are these? Presence of apoptotic keratinocytes in the basal layer. Okay, these are degenerating basal cells. चलो, तो lichen planus, फटाफट tell me the lichen planus. So which type of lichen planus has a highest tendency that it can convert into malignancy? Tell me. It is erosive and the atrophic type of lichen planus. And why it is important for the dentist to know? Because majority of the time oral lesions, they appear prior to the skin lesion. And which is the most common type of lichen planus? Which is the most common type of lichen planus? Both in the oral mucosa as well as the skin, it is the reticular type. Reticular type. Reticular type of lichen planus, both in the skin as well as the oral mucosa. So this is a mucocutaneous, that means involvement of both the mucous membrane as well as the skin. Now, sequelae of which vesiculobullous disease include decreased vision, okay, vision or the blindness, prominent scarring and the airway obstruction, okay. So obviously this is not the pemphigus vulgaris. We have not even seen in the Haley disease. So there are two options, okay. That is something like pemphigoid, that means pemphigus like lesion, okay. We have bullous pemphigoid or cicatricial pemphigoid, which is also called as benign mucous membrane pemphigoid. तो पहले तो differentiating the feature between the pemphigus and the pemphigoid. So what do we see pemphigus? Histopathologically, we see suprabasilar split because here the desmosomes are attacked, while in pemphigoid here the hemidesmosomes are attacked. That is why we see subbasilar split. So this question is also been asked many times. Okay, now you know this question because I have been discussing the same recall and same GTs again and again, and this question you already know. Now this is slightly different question. Okay, decreased vision, blindness, prominent scarring. Okay, so we have seen in bullous pemphigoid and cicatricial pemphigoid. Okay, I'll write it here. Bullous pemphigoid and cicatricial pemphigoid. So in bullous pemphigoid, here the blisters, they heal without scarring. Heal without scarring. Even if you know this, then you can mark this answer. Benign mucous membrane pemphigoid blisters heal with scarring. Blisters heal with scarring. Okay. So here the answer is benign mucous membrane pemphigoid. Now, bullous pemphigoid and cicatricial pemphigoid, since we are talking about benign mucous membrane pemphigoid, also called as cicatricial pemphigoid, here blisters heal with scarring, and the lesions in the oral cavity, important, the lesion which is present in oral cavity, they do not scar. Cavity do not scar. Okay, now the complication occurs when there is an ocular involvement. So when there is an ocular involvement, it can lead to blindness. Okay, and it predominantly affects the mucous membrane, includes your mouth, oropharynx and eyes. Mouth, oropharynx and eyes. Okay, now which of the following skin disease included in the group of the so-called collagen diseases? Okay, it is a very direct and straightforward question. Okay, pemphigus, henny, as we have already discussed pemphigus. Okay, leukoplakia, Is it a collagen disease? No. Lichen planus, it is a collagen disease. No, it is a T lymphocyte. So the only option here is lupus erythematosus, SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, and discoid lupus erythematosus. What do we see? Butterfly shaped rash, which is the classic clinical feature. Okay. Now, apart from maxillary lateral incisor, which other tooth is commonly affected by the microdontia? So the answer I'll tell you, this is third molar. Okay, very direct question. Now, very important question. Okay, so I think this is the last question of today's session. So loss of organization of radicular dentine with subsequent shortening of the root length. Okay, तो यहाँ पे it is very easy. देखो दो ही ऑप्शन दिया हुआ है, डेंटिन डिस्प्लेशिया एंड डेंटिनोजेनेसिस इम्परफेक्टा. शॉर्टनिंग ऑफ द रूट लेंथ हम किधर देखते हैं? इट इज अ फीचर ऑफ डेंटिन डिस्प्लेशिया. तो अभी हमें ऑप्शन ए और बी में रहना है. नाउ यू टेल मी radicular. So now we know dentine dysplasia, it is of two types. Okay, that is your radicular dentine dysplasia and the coronal. Radicular and coronal. Okay, so यहाँ पे ऑप्शन में ही दे दिया radicular dentine. That means they are talking about type 1. तो radicular is type 1 dentine dysplasia. Coronal, it is type 2 dentine dysplasia. So here the answer is dentine dysplasia type 1. Now, what is dentine dysplasia? Here there is disturbance in the dentine formation. Okay, but here the enamel, it is totally normal. It is characterized by normal enamel, and here the dentine, here it is atypical dentine with abnormal pulpal morphology. Dentine में problem है और pulpal morphology में. Now I always tell you, either it is a dentinogenesis imperfecta or dentine dysplasia. Type 1. तो type 1 में क्या होगा? There will be excessive dentine formation. Okay, excessive dentine formation. And अगर excessive dentine formation होगा, डेंटिन बहुत ज्यादा है, तो पल्प चेंबर क्या होगा? ऑब्लिटरेटेड. डिस्प्लास्टिक डेंटिन with obliterated pulp chamber. Similarly, in type 2, okay, now there is a slight twist. Here. Type 2, that is coronal. In permanent dentition, type 2, in permanent dentition, now what will happen? There will be excessive, matlab pulp chamber will be large pulp chamber, dentine will be very small, but that will be impermanent. But in primary dentition, it will be similar to the radicular type 1. Okay, so yes, so type 1 radicular and coronal. Okay, so what is the radicular dentine dysplasia? Large dysplastic dentine is formed with obliteration of pulp chamber. Now there is something called as lava flowing around the boulders. So what does this term mean? There is a normal dentinal tubule will form. Now these dentinal tubules, they appears that they are blocked by something. There is some obstacle, and when a new dentine is formed, overcoming this obstacle, so there is a large dentine is forming. So this is called as cascade of dentine. That means the dentine is formed overcoming few obstacles. So large dentine is formed, and this is called as cascade of dentine, which result from repetitive attempts to form the root structure, but the root structure is not getting formed, and that is why these are called as rootless teeth. So this is dentine dysplasia. Dentinogenesis imperfecta, similarly type 1 and type 2. तो type 1 में क्या होता है? There is a large dentine formation, obliteration of the pulp chamber, while in type 2 there is a large pulp chamber, dentine is very less. Okay, so this finishes your grand test 4 discussion. Okay, I will suggest you all that see all the grand test discussion, because you right now you are seeing your different life classes. Now these grand tests of different subjects will make you connect with that subject. Okay, so if you guys have any doubt, you can put your message on Telegram, or you can text me personally also. I'll be there to help you. So I wish you all very all the best. Okay.